Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I'm joined by
Dante James.
And Dante, we've seen Avengers Infinity War. How many times now have we seen it?
I have definitely seen it at least twice.
Okay, I saw it 3 times. I think it's one of those. The first time we saw it, I think I saw it with a group of people, and we walked out, and all of us collectively were like, "I need time to process this," and it obviously has to do with that ending. And I have to ask, with regard to that ending, we were processing this now. I should mention also, this is the spoiler episode of the podcast. Because,
yes, definitely.
Yeah, because...
Tune out now if you haven't seen the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen to this later because, half the fun of seeing these movies is complaining about them. I think any complaints are going to be nitpicky. But let me ask, does anyone who saw Infinity War believe that all those characters are dead for good?
I don't believe they're dead. I believe they're dead as far as what we've seen. I think they will come back. I just think that Marvel's going to be very creative in the way that they do it. I don't think we're going to get what we think we're going to get.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I think it's fair to say that. I mean, but if you look at the history of genre stuff, if you look at everything from, Star Trek, Star Wars, anything fantasy, characters that go away, come back. And in that spirit, I'd like to welcome to the show, Anthony Ray Bench is on the podcast with us.
I'm back.
It's so funny because just a few episodes ago, you were kind of saying your goodbyes and all this. And then here you are, you're back for this episode in particular. I don't think that there's any way that we could have done an Infinity War episode and not had you on the podcast.
Well, thank you, Chris. That means a lot to me. I was just telling somebody on the way over here, it's weird because I did kind of do the farewell, goodbye, happy trails to you type thing. And then the very next week, we did an old episode. And now
we're doing this. Well, I mean,
you can't miss me if I'm not gone.
Oh my God. Well, this is the thing. I mean, you had your death scene, just like Peter Parker, Spider-Man did. But we know that
we have to address that, Chris.
Exactly. There's so much. Okay, well, there's a lot to address. So,
we did say that they're going to be spoilers. So
right. But let's start with all of our individual history with the source material and growing up reading comics. I grew up reading, I think Fantastic Four was my gateway comic. And then I would read everything in reprint, right? So it's like I started reading comics in the 70s. So you would get the giant size issues. And in giant size, they'd always do reprints in the back. And then it was a matter of eventually they did those collected editions. And one of my prized possessions I have until today is a book called The Origins of Marvel Comics. And there's another one, The Sons of Origins of Marvel Comics. And both are signed by Stan Lee. So I'm a Marvel fan from the old school, and I've come and gone. I always get sucked back in when there's some big series, but yeah, I've grown up with these characters. Then I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. It was an old show from the '60s where they basically took issues of the comics, took the actual artwork and animated the artwork.
I do remember that actually.
Yeah,
it's kind of a radio play. But see, so my history with Marvel goes way back in the sense of just being a fan from back in the day and then surviving through so many bad. I mean, there was the David Banner Hulk series on CBS, which was interesting. They didn't. I mean, Stan Lee told a story. They didn't want him to be called Bruce because they thought it was
a gay name.
It was too effeminate of a name, which is stupid. But So having suffered through that and seen the Marvel Cinematic Universe just evolve, old school Marvel fan that, I mean, I know that there are comics that I've read of Marvel comics that affected me as much or more than movies, where I thought in my mind's eye, I would never see something on a movie screen as good as the comics I'd read. And I'm thinking in particular, the one where I really knew I was hooked was the 3-issue arc Silver Surfer comes, and it's the first coming of Galactus.
Yeah, that was an amazing book.
Right, with the ultimate nullifier. I mean, I'm reading this, and it's like, this is a movie. This is like, they will never make a movie as good as this. And I feel like now they're getting close. But to each of you, speak to your where you came into comics, what were your favorites, or any runs that were favorites for both of you?
Yeah, for me, I think my very first comic was a Thor comic. I can't remember what number it was. I know that I was only probably 9 years old at the time, and living where I lived, I grew up in the hood. It wasn't safe to go outside and play without getting shot. So I kind of found my life in comics. Wednesdays were my Willy Wonka day. That was new comic book day.
Right.
At the comic book store, and yeah. So I have a long history with comic books, and yeah, like you, I never for a second thought I would ever see something I read as a kid, become what it is now. Because back when we started reading books, it wasn't cool to be a geek. It wasn't
Right.
cool to read comics. It's like everyone is like, Johnny come lately now, and they're loving the Marvel movies and blah, blah, blah. But these things weren't cool 20 years ago, you know? So for me, it's like, it is kind of almost like, and I hate to, sound so dramatic here, but it's kind of like a dream come true seeing, something I've loved so much as a kid breaking records in the box office right now.
Yeah, it's mainstream popular. I mean, like we're, people that I know that were never even geeks are like, this is the next Marvel movie. But I always get like every Marvel movie I've ever seen in the theater, when I'm seeing it for the first time, I get choked up seeing that logo, whatever, they've gone through a couple incarnations of the logo, but it's interesting how they went from the comics, and now the logo on the 10-year anniversary includes the cinematic characters, right? But I thought I'd never see this. Who thought in our wildest dreams we'd see a Doctor Strange movie and it would be a good movie?
Well, and especially not just seeing these characters, but seeing them interact with each other.
Right,
We
right.
never thought we would get that.
Yeah.
We might get a movie here or there. Like back in the day, we had, Batman, or we had The Phantom. We had very standalone movies. We never thought we'd get, the inclusion of a whole universe in a movie with these characters. Seeing Captain America interact with the Hulk, or seeing Doctor Strange interact with Spider-Man. We never thought we would get that.
I remember having my mind blown watching. This is gonna sound like a funny sentence. I remember having my mind blown watching Batman Forever, because Bruce Wayne mentions Metropolis. He says something like, where are you gonna go? You'll get halfway to Metropolis. And I was just like,
But that's cool.
Yeah, my mind was just like, oh my gosh, like Superman's gonna hang out with Batman. This is going to happen. And, it eventually did. And it was kind of underwhelming. But going back to what you guys have been saying, like it's something that, it didn't feel possible, especially with all the rights being, scattered like the Infinity Gems themselves. Just did different studios.
Now it's interesting that you call them gems, because they're called,
Oh.
aren't they called gems in the comic?
Yeah.
But in the movies, they're called the stones.
And I hate that. I
Well,
hate it so much. It's
yeah.
a nitpick. I don't care. I'm
But
I don't care.
what's your history? Do you have a gateway comic, or like a story that like hooked you, where you were just
one of my first memories, like as a comic book fan, was like I had a babysitter whose son introduced me to Star Wars and introduced me to comics. But one of the earliest memories I have is looking at a book and not knowing how to read. I was probably like 5. And I'm looking at this book, and it's just so action packed, and all these characters have cool costumes and cool powers. And I remember looking at Cyclops, and he was fighting Spider-Man, and I don't know what the context was for this. It was in the early 90s, and I'm looking there, and I'm just like, I want to know what they're fighting about. And I went and asked my babysitter, and she was like, I don't know, I don't care. And I'm like,
What?
I'm like, I need to know this. And that sparked like this crusade where I had to learn how to read. And I asked my mom, I was like, I want to learn how to read, teach me how to read. So she taught me the basics. And reading comics was just something that motivated me to become a good reader. But the first story I remember gravitating to is actually the Infinity Gauntlet.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Among Us, I have not read the comic. I saw a little YouTube explainer of it, but it seems real. It seems his motivation, Thanos' motivation, is different in it. But
It's a lot different in the comic.
Yeah.
In the comics, he's basically like, death is a a physical embodiment. Death is a woman, and he has fallen in love with this woman, and he wants to wipe out half of all of the living creatures in an effort to appease her, in an effort to show that he's worthy of her. And his justification is kind of something that they actually touch on in the comics, where at this point there are more people alive than there ever have been dead. And that's something he brings up, and his quest is just basically to get, to get the lady. To get
wow,
death.
that's weird that it's that motivation in the
But
comic.
it's deeper.
But
It
yeah, but
is.
now the comic series ran over the course of what, like a year?
Six, yeah.
6 months.
I just read. I didn't know this off the top of my head. I actually thought that the Infinity Gauntlet series was in the late '80s. It was actually 1991 from January to December.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
That's also the very first crossover comic I think I read, or big crossover I should say. comic that I read.
The one that I remember was Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
DC
See,
universe.
I didn't read that till way later in life.
I
Same
read
here.
it at the time it was happening. It was shocking. Like it was. See, that's I think the way you got to fix the DC universe is just do Crisis on Infinite Earths from Flash's point of view, kill everybody but Gal Gadot. Like just keep Wonder Woman.
Interesting
and Flash.
choice of words. They're actually going with Flashpoint, which is a newer retcon that basically did the same
really?
thing. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a way that because then it's like, of course, it's a different Batman. They cast a different actor. It makes sense because the Flash is the only one that will remember all the events of the Zack Snyderverse, and you can wipe it. I'm serious. You could wipe.
We'll still remember.
Yeah, you could wipe the slate clean.
Haunt our dreams forever.
You'll wipe the slate clean. Okay, we don't want to spend our
Yeah,
time
we don't
with
want to delve into DC at the moment.
Yeah, so this is an event that there was at the screening that I was at, there was a palpable nervousness with people. It was strange. Like people were, because you kind of knew this had been built up. It's like 10 years, 19 movies, and all the bad movies that came before that, don't count. But in terms of Marvel Studios and this connected universe, and everyone going in knew bad things were going to happen. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but starting first with the good. I think one of my favorite parts of the movie is just characters meeting each other for the first time. That.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely one of the best things about the film.
Yeah, so characters meeting. What were some of your favorite moments in terms? Because that's the one thing that I think separates. You can sit there and complain no, these big budget movies are stupid and they're about nothing. I actually disagree. I think that the Marvel films are about something. They are about things that are relevant, that are happening to today. I mean, yes, they are big summer tentpole movies, but I do believe that they're aspirations beyond just making something like that and actually saying something with these films.
Well, one of the sort of gripes that I've heard from some people is they felt like that Captain America and all the guys fighting in Wakanda kind of had the B story of the movie,
Right.
and felt
I agree. Yeah.
It felt like Guardians had the majority of the film,
Right.
where it makes sense, guys. It's Gamora's daughter.
Right.
It's like, of course the Guardians are going to play a huge part in fighting Thanos.
Right.
But I loved, as far as characters meeting other characters go. I guess my favorite is probably Thor and Rocket. like their scenes together. Yeah, their scenes together for me were just pure money every single time. And I think I told Anthony before, I felt like, to me, Thor stole the whole film. Outside of Thanos,
I agree.
I loved Thor in this film.
He kind of did. He was great.
And this is the first time I've ever said that, or said it about Thor in an Avengers film. But to me, he kind of stole the show for me.
I feel coming off of Thor Ragnarok, it was just so funny that he was channeling Taika Waititi.
Well, just that scene, again, spoiler, that scene where he comes down to Wakanda,
right,
was so badass. That's one of the most
Thanos.
That's one of the most badass scenes in any Marvel film I think I've ever seen. And so for me, Thor was definitely my favorite. But his interaction with the Guardians was.
And this is in defense of Marvel movies in general. Is that I think that what I like is they do focus on character moments. It's the thing that no, there's no character development in this big summer movie because it's all about spectacle. It's yes, the Marvel movies are about spectacle, but my favorite parts of the films are always character moments. I mean, my favorite part is not like that scene where that explosion happened with I don't care. Like that to me is just background noise. It's those character moments, like that
Because-
makes sense. It's Tony Stark making fun of the wizards, and like
because you've seen this in the comics all your life, and to
Yes!
finally see it on screen,
Exactly.
is like finally these guys are finally hanging out.
they're the essence of those characters. I don't care that the costume's not completely accurate, or it's like that's not that doesn't matter. It's like what matters is the essence of who they are. That interaction. The Peter Parker just being this naive kid with a smart ass attitude and like always goofing around and joking. Even when he's like beating up on Thanos, he's like he's all quippy. It was great. So, what are the favorite character moments for you, Anthony?
I really, since you called Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy, I really enjoyed the interaction between Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Their first meetup was really interesting and fun. This movie feels like it was a bunch of writers in a room just fanboying out. Like,
Right.
We got to write a scene where Thor hangs out with Guardians of the Galaxy, like they're perfect together. Well, maybe we should do a scene where Hulk hangs out with Groot. No, like that wouldn't work. Like we need to do this. It scratched every itch that I thought I would have with this movie. I thought it was fantastic. Just like you guys said, the interactions between the characters really made this movie special.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing that the Russo brothers, I was reading in an interview, who did this, that they had so much more material. It was like a whole other movie of just storylines that they had, created that just couldn't fit, or it had to go in another direction. There was just so much in the thinking of what this would be, because it really is this culmination of, these different franchises all coming together. One little divert I'd like to discuss for a moment is the ideas of connected universes. Okay. Connected universes, Marvel gets all this credit like, oh, it's a connected universe. Like Marvel just invented this. First of all, Marvel did not invent the connected universe. And I will say that they probably perfected it, right? Like
As
they're
close to perfect as
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean-
they and what's so funny is I remember like a few years ago I was talking to a friend who's a screenwriter who said that like, oh yeah, like that's all the studios want to hear now is like a pitch for some movies that are of a connected universe.
Speaking of which, I have to chime in on this one.
Please,
I
yeah.
have a really good friend of mine who works for. I have to say it because I'm going to mention the movie. Who works for Universal Pictures?
Oh
And
no!
I think I know where
And
this is going.
and he said like basically they lock themselves in a room to try to figure out how to make the Universal monster movies work out into this connective universe.
Right.
And they tried it with the Mummy with Tom Cruise, and that movie
Yeah,
flopped.
spoiler alert, it didn't work.
It didn't
Yeah.
work at
No.
all. And it's kind of sad because from what he told me, it sounded pretty cool what they were trying to build. But it just fell so flat.
But it's weird because Universal, at least in my memory, was one of the first connected universes, right?
They were
Because
with the original monster
the
movies.
Universal monster movies, Dracula, the Mummy,
Yes.
the werewolf, Frankenstein's monster, whatever you want to say, like that was a connected universe. That was
Yes, it
Universal.
was.
Then there were other connected universes. There was the View Askew universe, like Kevin Smith. So like this isn't like a new concept, and it's a concept from comics more than anything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can even argue the early Tarantino movies, maybe.
Yeah, the early, and there's other like fan theories, but whenever I read a headline that says this fan theory about blah 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 is genius,
Automatically check out.
yeah, I never read those. I think they're always dumb. But
No, but you're right. It's not something new, but it's something that, like you said, Marvel has made a science. They
yeah.
perfected it.
And it's like there is now, I mean, you could call it its own genre, a Marvel movie, right? They made you stay through the credits. And from my understanding, the original ending, which we'll get to talking to the ending later, the original ending of the movie, there was not an end credit scene. There was zero. It was just credits and the movie ended. And it was sort of Marvel saying like, don't get stuck on expectations. It's not always going to be the way you think, right? Like
I would have loved that.
yeah, that would have been kind of cool. But they said that the movie ended on such a dour note that they really needed to do something. And I think that ending is perfect. We'll get to talk about that later. But Marvel's like created like it is in a sense a Marvel movie. Like one, it's going to be fun. It does appeal across like ages. It's like all over the map, like I feel like there's like these tropes, like every Marvel character, including freaking Doctor Strange, they've all gotten like shirtless, right? Every male Marvel character has gotten, there's a shirtless scene where it's like, look at my pecs.
At some point, yes.
Every single one. Go back. I mean, you could just like, it's like
except for Black Widow, but
right. Yeah, well,
Thanos needed a topless scene.
Yeah, he should have been shirtless.
That's something else.
Purple nipples.
Yeah, but it's weird because like you could tick off certain things that always happen in the Marvel movie, like the opening, references to stuff in the comics, minor characters, like a cameo by someone else, like there'll be like all these little things. The ending. I mean, it's cool that it's trained audiences to not leave. I always, when I see people leave, I'm like, is this the first Marvel movie you've ever seen?
Well, they've even made memes about that. How
right.
People leaving before the credits. It's like
I feel like it's them going to the bathroom, but you don't know that there might have been a mid-credit scene because sometimes there's 3 end credit scenes.
Yeah, I think in Guardians Volume 2 there was like 5 post-credits.
Yeah, there were, right?
It was sort of ridiculous. And then that little song that's at the end, that's just like, I love that. That was just
David
like James
Hasselhoff song.
so
James Gunn
amazing.
going nuts. It's so great.
Have you seen the music video for it?
Yeah.
There's an
Yes, I
actual
have.
music video
It's
for
one of
it.
my favorite things in the world.
It's
so great.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So great. So how do we reconcile this? Like, it's one of the things where when we all like my experience, I need time to process this. And I think it's because we're seeing characters we're not used to Marvel movies ending this way. Marvel movies mainly, they might be bittersweet. Like I think the Guardians movies have ended in a bittersweet way. The first Guardians, Peter gets that cassette tape from his mother that was the gift.
The original Groot dies.
The original Groot dies. Like it's a little bittersweet, right? Like, I mean, it's a lot like Super. I don't know if you've seen Super.
Yeah,
James Gunn. Oh my God, it's such a great film. And then, same thing with Guardians 2. That was bittersweet, right? Like
Yondu
dies.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, I got choked up, and there's that Cat Stevens song playing. So, but this is, I mean, it's not dark in the sense of being dark. It's just, and I think that I noticed when the first screening I saw a little boy had to be 8 years old carrying a Black Panther mask, like bawling his eyes out, and his mom just having to say, "We gotta go," almost like the kid thought the movie, like that can't be the end of the movie, right? Like the kid's bawling, like we gotta go. It's like,
no, I mean, same thing when we saw it
Yeah.
at the Dome. The 2 girls sitting behind us, like you can almost hear one of them crying. It's
Right.
like, and just this disbelief of this can't be the end.
Yeah.
This can't be the
My friend Cliff, his son, who's 9 years old, cried when Spider-Man. I think the Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, that is probably the saddest death because he knows it's coming.
Yeah.
Who called it like a year ago?
Feel that it's coming. Okay, but wait.
I did.
You did? Well, hey,
It's documented.
you know what? Dig up that audio and even see if it's
I will
exists.
insert the shit out of that audio right here.
Well,
right here.
If I hear me argue with you and you can produce the audio and just tell me.
Dude, for a year I've been saying Spider-Man's gonna get it, and you said no way. I have a theory.
Let's hear the theory.
Peter Parker dies after this big cataclysmic event. They already set
Which
up
is Infinity War. Everybody looks like they're getting their ass kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, young Peter Parker just saying "I'm sorry" to Tony Stark, like
as he's dying.
as he's not dying.
Only like 2 people I've ever met have agreed with me. I think that Spider-Man's gonna die. I think it would be really shocking and unexpected if Spider-Man dies in Infinity War, and that's I honestly I hope it happens.
Someone out there start a Reddit thread and all the dumb things that Anthony says. You just document all of them. All right. So,
Well, the 2 characters.
Okay, so you're right. Obviously, you're right. So I
won.
don't know. Wait, what did we bet?
We didn't bet anything. We're really terrible at that.
We're bad, gentlemen's bet.
Yeah.
You could have won.
I mean,
$20.
I would say the 2 characters who I definitely did not expect that to happen to were Spider-Man and Black Panther.
Well, especially Black Panther,
Those were
off
the
the
2
heel of-
I thought there's
Yeah.
no way. There's no way.
And also, when is a Marvel movie opened where like there's a Marvel movie that opened and then a few months later the next, it's still in theaters. Black Panther is still, you can go see Black Panther
Yeah.
and then go see Infinity
Not
War.
only
Like,
that, Black Panther is number 5. It's still in the top 5.
Right,
Under Infinity War.
which is incredible.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. It's yeah, and it is like a lot of people were definitely hoping for Infinity War to be like Black Panther 1.5. I don't know.
It really wasn't.
It really wasn't. I feel like it was, but I mean, in the battle scenes, I thought it was. I thought Wakanda was amazing.
Yeah.
But I've got like, well, there's a couple things that I want to talk about before we talk about the deaths. One is I have a big point on this, and I brought it up like the night that we all saw it at the ArcLight. So they're basically putting all these. I don't see how a Wakandan warrior's life is worth any less than Vision's. I'm sorry, he has the stone there, and I'm really, but like the universe will end. Half of all life will be gone if we don't destroy this soul stone, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I thought about that too.
Explain it to me, because now I've seen it and it bugs me. It bugs me because it's like, oh, Vision is a robot. Yes, I know he's alive, and Wanda, is in love with him, and they have this little love story. But for some reason, also his death just didn't resonate with me. I don't know, for some reason it wasn't.
See, opposite of me.
Really?
Because I love Vision as a character. I love, and I love them in the film, and I felt like, I don't know. To answer your question about the Wakandans and everybody, not doing the obvious, which is
right. Which is
kill Vision.
Which is what Vision said. Vision is even being logical, saying, like destroy the stone. Like,
the problem is though,
am I the only one that's bothered by
no,
this?
because
I brought it up in my
the
review
only reason why
on
I'm not bothered is because the only reason I think this never happened is because you're either going to fight Thanos or you're going to fight Wanda.
Yeah, right.
And it's like she's pretty.
That's a good point.
And she showed how much of a heavy hitter she was in the film. So you're fighting one of the two, and she wasn't going to let him go that easy.
But I don't know, man. Like that bugged me a little bit. Look, go to filmthreat.com, look up my Infinity War review. There's comments also from Anthony on there. Dante, he'll post his comments on there too. We'll get his and post in the comments about this, because I want to know, like, if I'm the only one that feels this way, that I kind of feel like Vision was right.
Oh, he was totally right. I'm not arguing with that at all.
Totally right. And I feel put everyone at risk. And then of course, like, what happened. But it just bothers me that, like, I mean, that, you can just sort of brush off, the army. Like, and what was that guy? I saw him on a talk show. The guy who played like the general that was like the head. M'Baku. Yeah. Oh my God. That guy was awesome. He was not. I feel like there's like a ton of stuff that was cut out, because what was cool during that battle was it kind of cut to different people doing stuff, but we didn't get to see Black Panther do anything. That was the one thing it stood out to me actually the third time seeing it. Like, it's like, okay, everyone kind of has like their little, like, you go off and then this person's got to take care of this person. This person's got to take care of this person. And
he has like
T'Challa,
5 lines.
Yeah. I feel like but I mean, that's the weird thing also about Black Panthers. I kind of feel like the other characters are in some ways kind of more interesting. Kind of like Luke Skywalker is the least interesting character in Star Wars. And he's surrounded by all these other characters that are more interesting. I hate to say this, but I kind of think that Black Panther is maybe the least interesting character, whereas Killmonger is more interesting. Like all these other, like,
Believe it or not,
is that
I don't mind the fact that
I agree with
I don't
you.
mind.
Is this terrible for me?
No, I agree with you, but I don't mind the fact that he played a lesser part in this, just because we've already saw Black Panther. We saw the film. So I don't mind him taking more of a back seat here, because we just saw the film, and it was time for and when you're bringing all these characters together, and like I said, for better or for worse, the Wakanda story was more the B story. Right. The A story was Iron Man, Strange, the Guardians, Thor.
Right.
Because if you think about it, they probably spent more time on Thor and him getting Stormbreaker, which I also want to talk about.
Right.
Than they probably did Black Panther and Cap together.
Right.
All together.
You know what I feel sorry for in this whole situation is teachers 5 years from now, when they're teaching a class and they have 10 students named T'Challa. What are they going to do? Because that is going to be... this
Shuri.
is my prediction.
Yes.
Shuri,
there'll be a lot of Shuris.
And there are going to be so many kids named those names that, like, it happens actually. There's a few stories actually on Film Thread, because we get like these little releases from like some baby naming website. And I think it's really interesting. Like when something becomes popular, like there's kids named Kylo Ren. But like, I think more than anything, which is like, I don't know that Kylo Ren is the best name, but T'Challa, man, you're like, I mean, it's
coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm telling you, a lot of babies this year are going to be named T'Challa. But Anthony, what are your thoughts on that, on the whole Vision thing? Am I being off base? Am I Or am I spending too much time on this right now?
I think by that time in the movie, I was just sitting on the edge of my seat going, Spider-Man better die. Spider-Man better die. I need to fucking brag about this. No, I think it was fine. I think I'm not a big Vision fan anyways, so I've always found the character kind of boring. So his death literally had no effect on me. And as soon as like they destroyed the stone, I was like, I know where they're going with this.
Yeah, of course. The time.
Yeah, he has
the time gem.
The time gem. Yeah.
Yeah, the time stone or gem. Depends on
the
if
gem.
you
The gem. We're comic book nerds.
Yeah,
We call it
exactly.
gem.
Just the gem. So okay. So let's talk about this ending. Okay, you can. I mean,
the Marvel Rapture.
Well, it's weird. It's the Marvel Rapture. Okay,
Yeah, great name.
It's a great. Yeah, the Marvel. It really is the Marvel Rapture. Like all these characters, like ones you just totally don't expect, and we're left with the original Avengers. Right now,
Which I thought would be the opposite.
I thought it was- yes, I thought
they were
so
gonna
as
take
well.
out all the originals, and we'd be left with Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, and all these guys having to be the new
right.
Avengers.
It was okay. And I've seen it 3 times, and I think it was only at the first screening because I think the first screening they mixed media with people who had worked on the film. So there was like a little polite applause at the end, and then there was the when you think there's going to be a mid-credit scene, there's a like did that? I don't know if that happened at your screening, but I saw it twice since that, and it was just silent. Like,
Yeah, dead silence.
okay, leave. The movie's over. Like
People were pissed, and I've seen
Right.
the movie 3 times.
Okay,
I saw the movie at 7:00 on Thursday, and then right after that, me and my girlfriend Megan were like, let's go see it again. Why not?
yeah, exactly.
So we literally saw it at 11:20.
Oh my
So
God.
those 2 screenings, people were pissed at the ending. There was
Well,
like,
yeah.
there were people that were just like, what the fuck? Like, that's it?
And you
Like,
said they were pissed about Black Panther.
oh,
right?
yeah. The first screening, people were audibly booing when Black
Really?
Panther disappeared.
Wow.
They didn't care about, like, they got a few gasps for Peter Parker.
Right. Because it's tragic the way he's just feeling it coming. You actually don't even see Black Panther on screen. It's just his hand reaching out.
Yeah.
And then it just turns to the ash or dust. And that's what's also kind of haunting about it is because it's a death that you would associate with some sort of nuclear tragedy or something. It's like this.
They literally turned to ash.
They turn to
But
ash.
even
It's
right before
frightening.
that, I thought was just like
haunting.
the most perfect scene where you don't know what just happened. He snapped his finger.
It goes to white.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
it goes to white. He's in this.
It looks like an Arrested Development.
He's in this place with Gamora, young Gamora, his daughter Gamora, the younger one, and it's just there's this silence, this quietness, and all of a sudden, that's when the fucking rapture starts, and there's no music,
But
it's just silent, people disappearing and silence.
But I like that it got weird. There were a couple moments where it got weird. It's when he got the Soul Stone on that one planet.
Yeah.
When he got it, it got weird. And then also when Thanos snapped his fingers, it got weird. And I like that it did some sort of weird, surreal thing that's sort of out of a art film or an indie movie, and it just went to like this bizarre, where it's, this is we're seeing it through Thanos, and it's watching those characters just. Okay, let's talk about Thanos. We definitely need to talk about Thanos.
Wait,
It's on my
hold
list.
on.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I didn't want to move on before, because there's a lot to talk about here.
Do you guys recall what the last line of the movie is, not counting the post-credit scene?
No.
It's Captain America literally saying, "Oh God,"
Yeah, that's it.
and then credits.
Yeah.
Speaking of Thanos, let's talk about Thanos now.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Thanos. Josh Brolin.
Easily the best Marvel villain, period.
Hands down.
Period.
Hands up. But let's talk about that performance. There are times because also you're looking at at one of the screenings, I sat front row at the ArcLight in the dome.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed because you're just surrounded. You can't even look anywhere that isn't the movie, right? And you look at this head, that thing where Mantis is on his head, and it's just his teeth and just the nose and it's the weird, and it's this big. It's a head this big. It's like a piñata head or a big head from Mardi Gras, and it's real and gross, and there's an ear and nose and
veins pulled out
veins
and
and the weird scrotum chin and it looks real. I mean, it's
And they did it so well, though.
so well. So okay, so there's that, but is that Josh Brolin? Did he dress in some mocap outfit and do all that? But
I believe he did.
But the voice acting too, there's just stuff about it that is so. One, there's that performance. So tell me what you guys thought of the performance, and then I want to talk. And then after the performance, I want to talk about the motivation.
Okay.
that they changed from the comic.
Performance wise, and I've talked this to death to so many people, but I felt like I just felt like he brought so many layers to Thanos. Like,
Absolutely.
like he was not a one-dimensional villain by any means. You know, like there were just there were scenes where you could tell he just didn't even want to kill, but that's just what he has to do. Right. And I'm not even talking about Gamora. I'm talking about other scenes where he could have just been the mustache twirling villain and just killed a bunch of people.
And he didn't do it. He actually didn't kill all that much when it came to directly killing people. He killed people when it was necessary.
Exactly.
His henchmen killed most of the people.
His henchmen did most of the killing, but like Loki, it's just like, well, you got no choice there. Like he just could have killed everybody and didn't do it. When you look at the opportunities he had, he just could have killed all of them on that planet, right? Like which gem would he have used to kill them?
But just seeing the different
gem.
layers of this guy and seeing the emotion that, the range of emotions that he had. I was telling Anthony, like that one scene where Gamora's having the flashback of her being a child and him taking her under his wing and treating her like a little girl who just lost her mommy. Man. It's like this is Thanos, the guy who wants to destroy half the universe, acting like a father,
turning her head so she doesn't have to witness the murder of her people.
Right.
Like, that
broken
part
up
really
just
got me
in half. Yeah. Like randomly half, and we're just gonna now. In that sense, he's doing it manually just by shooting them. But
what he showed her though, the emotion he showed her was fucking amazing because he treated her. He didn't treat her like some ant that he's going to step on. He treated her like a little girl.
He knelt down to be at.
He knelt down to her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think there's something more to that, and I had heard that there was more to his backstory, but they cut it out of this. They cut it out, but it's possible they're saving it for the next movie. So who knows? But like, it is just as a villain character, and I think Killmonger fits in this category too. It's a villain where you go, well, there's some motive. There's you could justify them feeling this way because his own homeworld was devastated by not enough resources with too many people. We're living in a world also, our own world. I feel like Marvel actually worked on the message with this. Like we're living in a world where there's 7 billion people now. There will be 10 billion people on the planet soon. I read an article recently that by the year 2050, there will no longer be fish in the ocean. This is a theory based on data trends about fishing just being more and more difficult, and how many places where fish are disappearing, and how often
the rate of consumption.
The rate of consumption. It's rate of consumption. It's just like it's an algorithm that you could just like run. It's like, oh, if the trends go this way, it's like that. There's also maps that you can look at of other cities in the United States that like where there will be by a certain year in terms of the water level. So yeah, we are living at a time where, the planet, we saw that movie, Annihilation, which, I think we all did that. That was a fun episode for us to do. And
great movie.
Yeah.
Very underrated.
Yeah. And that deals with a lot of, heavy stuff as well. This is the idea that like, we're living in a place where we could potentially, us humans are a virus. If the Earth is, say, a living entity, we're just a virus, and if we start to cause too many problems, we're just going to be wiped out or dramatically reduced.
Like in The Happening?
Exactly. Or like I read another thing that Bill Gates was quoted as saying that there's going to be a pandemic that's going to wipe out tens of millions of people just because of the way we're able to travel all over the world, that there'll be some disease. There was a Steven Soderbergh movie that dealt with that.
Yeah, what was that movie called?
I forget the name
Contagion?
of it. But Kate Winslet, someone like this. Kate Winslet was in it.
I want to say Contagion.
Yeah. Kate Winslet was in it. It was amazing. But like,
was it though, Chris?
Yes, it was amazing.
No.
I thought my memory of it was that it was amazing. But I feel like, obviously the filmmakers are saying something by changing the motivation, right? Like, Because I think if you just want to kill half of life of all the universe, why would you just want to kill half? Like they gave him a very valid
To impress your
reason.
girlfriend, duh.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, duh. Like, yeah, like okay, so yeah. I just wanted that. I took really long time to say.
You've never wiped out half of a population.
No, I've never done it.
Get laid.
I've never done it, but I remember hearing stories.
That's one way to do it.
Well, I never heard. Never done. But I've heard stories of my grandfather who lived through the Great Depression that they would have dinner and there would be one potato and that would be dinner for like a family of 5 people. Like that was weird to hear that. I mean, now we live in a time where food's pretty plentiful. You know, I don't know if it's the best food for us, but you know, it's food. You know, so. But anyways, boy, what a divert that I did down a rabbit hole. But Thanos' motivation, like, can you guys speak to that and like how that like because it's like, oh, you're almost like, yeah, like maybe we're, you know, because when you look at how China is trying to reduce their population size by its 1 child per family. That's it. You get to have 1 child. So
ever since Thanos showed up at the end of Avengers, like I remember distinctly feeling this wave of excitement and then this wave of dread of like,
because you thought it would suck.
Oh shit, yeah.
But they waited, and it's earned. You know, after 10 years, they bring this character.
It's very much earned.
I thought they were gonna fuck him up. Like I thought he was just gonna be this hulking mass that just goes around and kills people and has no motivation because his comic book motivation doesn't really translate to the screen very well. I was very like, for months now, I've been saying, you know, Thanos has to work. For this movie to be good, Thanos has to work. And coming off of Killmonger, like that's a hard act to follow.
Right.
And
Agreed.
Yeah, it's so impressive that, you know, because of the role and because of the motivation that they gave him, Thanos is so compelling. He's one of the most compelling villains I've seen in a long time, if possibly ever. I'm so glad that they got that perfect because Thanos is more than just a hulking bad guy. He's more than like the Abomination and the Hulk. He's more than Doomsday and Batman v Superman. He has layers. He has these things.
And Doomsday was a baby.
Yeah.
They basically, Justice League killed a baby. They
Yeah.
murdered a mutant baby that was just really mad. I mean, how do they know all the screaming is just from like, you've ever seen a baby like after it's first born or,
This is true.
or any newborn baby? They're annoying. They're very loud.
I don't know how far they're going to go with this, but it was definitely hinted at in the comics. The reason why, in the movie, the reason why in the comics Thanos fails consistently is because he doesn't necessarily believe in what he's doing to be 100% right. There's conflict within him.
You can kind of see it a little in this film too.
And I do hope they explore it a little bit more. I hope there's remorse. I hope, you know, he questions himself, like, was this the right thing to do? I compared it to basically Thanos is, and especially in the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries, he's like a starving actor waiting in a casting office to audition for the next Steven Spielberg movie. And he's sitting there and he's just like, all right, I know I can get this part. I know this part is perfect for me. And then all of a sudden these thoughts creep into his mind. Like, if I nail this role and if I get this part, or if I nail this audition and get this part, I'm going to be a superstar. People are going to hound me on the streets. I'm never going to be able to go to the grocery store again. It's going to change my life. It's going to, you know, create so many problems that, you know, I can't really comprehend right now. And he goes into the audition and he fucks it up completely. Like, that's what Thanos does consistently in the comics.
What's interesting is you painted a picture in my head of Thanos just being in other movies. I would just love to see Thanos in just like any sort of weird, random
romantic comedy
with Thanos
Spielberg,
and, you know,
Wars
like
2.
latest Amy Schumer movie. And it's like Thanos, but it's like, he's just Thanos. They don't even like say it's just Thanos just in other movies being Thanos. And like, but like in just think of any sort of like, he's in historical drama, you know, and it's like some weird thing like Pride and Prejudice. And Thanos is like walking around like dressed like that, like, but he has an interesting accent, you know, like I think that would be, I would love to just see Josh Brolin be Thanos, but just in other films.
I just
make
want more
the film
Thanos.
normal.
Yeah.
Just make the normal movie, but just put Thanos in other parts of the film. I think that would work.
But it's that doubt. It's that extra, I guess, foresight. And there's even a line where, he tells Tony Stark, like, you're not the only one who's cursed with knowledge. I want them to explore that. I want them to, basically Thanos' downfall needs to come from his doubt, from his.
Well, that came from like when Tony Stark was going to sacrifice himself in the first Avengers. Then he had that other vision in Age of Ultron.
He had two visions in Age
like
of
two
Ultron.
visions. Yeah. So where? Yeah, the two visions, and one was where the Flash came and said it's all about Lois. Lois is the key. Was that the? No, but like I feel like what's great is that they seeded this stuff and then it's paid off.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to actually go back. I would not. A friend of mine actually did that 19 film marathon or whatever it was. Where
I could never do that.
He was sending me pictures from it and sort of gloating.
Yeah,
but
I tried. I got to
died.
3 movies, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I remember enough.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, at least, maybe being able to watch them on video or whatnot, like seeing like how they, cause I mean, does it really work? Did they really like, and the other, I mean, there was the Red Skull. His cameo was fantastic.
Yeah. Yes,
Totally
it was.
unexpected.
Did not see
I
that
had no
coming
idea.
at all. In
Yeah.
fact, when that Spectre thing showed up, I thought it was Lady Death. Like
Right.
I had no idea that they were bringing the skull back, and the way they did it was just so clever that he's been there since the first Captain America movie.
And that wasn't Hugo Weaving, by the way.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, that was the actor who plays Aaron in Walking Dead.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you
First
at
of all,
all.
he's great because I love that guy. He's, I mean,
He's really good
There's a
doing
great
Hugo Weaving
video.
impressions.
There's a great video of him just doing impressions of
Yeah.
people, but it's doing impressions of people like it's like Liam Neeson looking for pocket change or something. It's always like doing some mundane thing, but it's like a major actor, and he's a master at those kind of things. So wow, he did Hugo Weaving basically.
Yeah.
So wow, that's cool.
I would love to see a cut of this movie where they take out everything except for Thanos. Like, just follow Thanos' quest.
Just do Well, apparently,
I think that would be really, really cool.
well, the Russo brothers did describe it as it's a heist film where Thanos is just going around trying to steal the jewels, right? To accomplish
Right.
this task. And it
And,
only
and that's a good comparison, actually.
Thanos is, for all intents and purposes, the main character in this movie.
okay, so
He really is.
He is because you really see it. I mean, it starts with him.
He has the most screen
I would love.
time.
I would love to see someone do a cut of Thor Ragnarok where you edit it so that Thor Ragnarok ends with Loki's death and like everything that happens at the beginning of Infinity War. You show that to a friend like who'd never seen it. It's like, oh, that's a terrible. The ending. The movie was so fun, and then all this happens to everybody at the end. That's awful.
And there's also
because it really picks up right after. But I mean, where's Korg and like all those other? They said there was.
Yeah, they wiped out. Like, if you watch the movie, half of the ship is gone. Like, it's separated from the front half. So they're saying that maybe Valkyrie and Korg and Meek are on the back half.
They have to. Valkyrie, So okay, so
because
let's
they would have shown him. They would have shown him on the ground dead.
right.
Like,
So let's talk about now where is this all going, and I'd like to hear theories.
I have some thoughts.
I have some theories. So I first of all, I have a theory that people who died, like Loki is dead,
I agree.
Gamora dead, Heimdall dead.
I agree.
Everyone who disappeared in Ash isn't dead. I have a theory, and this is a theory, and we'll check the tapes a year from now. We'll see how accurate I am. That Doctor Strange put some sort of spell on the stone and on the time stone, that all of them went to another dimension, and they may even be housed in the Soul Stone.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Soul World. It's from
Soul
the
World?
comics.
Oh, it's what?
Yeah, it's basically purgatory for all the souls that get blinked out of existence and whatnot.
Okay, so that exists.
That's
okay.
a thing in the comics.
Okay,
yeah.
so-
Adam
so-
Warlock is the
He can cross
basically
over.
yeah, he's God in
Right.
Soul World. But Adam Warlock, they're doing other stuff with him. He's not going to show up until Volume 3, which is long after Avengers. But yeah, I think all of the souls exist inside of the Soul Gem, and there's going to be a way where they force Thanos to snap his fingers again and reset everything somehow. But I think, and I was telling Dante about this, I think that there's going to be a twist, and I think
Well, here-
it's going to go back. exactly the way that it was supposed to. There's
I
going to be
think
people
so. I think
that
there's gonna be a
don't
twist.
come back. There's going to be things that, don't reset.
And I have another theory. All the original Avengers are going to die
Yeah,
in the next
I
one.
think,
And I'll tell you why. And this theory is not based on like any sort of story thing or insight. It's because all of those actors' contracts are so expensive. This is the most expensive, and they're touting like it made $650 million worldwide, $250 million in the US. It hasn't even opened in China. And in China, Marvel movies are incredibly popular. So this movie is going to
It hit $1 billion.
yeah, it'll hit $1 billion fast, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I think that what's going to happen is, I have a theory that all of the original Avengers, quote, and I'm putting this in quotes, die. Something with Captain Marvel is going to reset, because Captain Marvel said in the 90s there's going to be something to do with Captain Marvel in the 90s,
the Skrull Kree War.
and somehow she hides the Avengers. Somehow it happens where something where it's like it's in the 90s. She takes all that. Basically, what ends up happening is the characters somehow go back to the 90s, and younger versions of them exist in the present day. So imagine Infinity War Part 2 ends with they die, but they're reborn as younger versions of themselves, and they're recast the whole thing.
I'll
Am
do
I wrong?
one better.
Am I so they're not going to kill? So okay, just to be clear, they're going to kill the character in quotes, right? Captain America. But what happens is it's then Captain America exists. All those other, Tony Stark, they all exist, but they're younger versions of themselves as a way to recast. So the character continues in a younger version, and they'll make more Avengers movies with a new cast. But that cast, as we have seen them, are gone.
That's a possibility. But
I don't know.
Here's what I want to see happen.
Okay.
I told Dante this. I would die if this happened. So they finally convince Thanos, or force him, whatever happens, to reverse everything. And he says, this is going to come at a cost. This is going to change things. So, like I said, some people come back, some people don't. I don't know what's going to happen with the original Avengers, but the survivors, the people that, were fighting Thanos, are like, all right, let's go back to Earth.
What
Like,
if the Avengers decide to give up their lives? We will all
Maybe.
give up our lives
Yeah.
if this is the only way is for them to, because to me, real heroism, like the
Mm-hmm.
things that will give me chills, is act of self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
That to me is like, it happens rarely, but like when it happens,
So they go back to Earth to meet up with the survivors and meet up with the people that got resurrected, and they show up, and there's Galactus. And
oh no.
because that's the whole thing. Like, you have this MacGuffin that can literally transform reality.
Well, that'll be the button scene, because maybe that'll be phase 4. Fantastic Four. Phase 4.
But I would love to see like them come to Earth, and the original Avengers, the people that survived this movie, come back to Earth to meet up with the people that got brought back, and they're like, where the fuck have you been?
Right.
All of a sudden Galactus's foot just stomps
Right.
down. The Fantastic Four, you can see, like, you can't make them out, like, because they haven't cast them yet, but they're flying around, like, blasting, like,
I just want to see the Fantastic Four. Like
I do too.
That
would be a great
that would
way
be the
to-
best way to introduce
Yeah.
those characters.
Right.
It's just that happening at the end.
because blinking everything back comes with consequences. It doesn't, everything doesn't
not
revert
perfect.
back. Yeah. So you have these, properties that haven't been under the Marvel umbrella, which
Well,
now-
I just don't know if that can even happen in time. Those
probably not. I'm
first of
saying
all,
that's what I want to happen. I don't
Well, okay.
think that's going to happen.
Sprint and T-Mobile have tried to merge 3 times before this currently announced merger, and this
Yeah.
sounds stupid. It's like I've been reading the news.
No, but you have a point.
No, but
No,
like
you have
they've
a
tried to
very
do
good
it,
point.
and it's been shut down.
Yeah.
But
'Cause
what
it's
I'm
a
saying is
monopoly,
those
basically.
kinds of mergers mergers and or acquisitions take time. So even though like we're as fanboys going like, oh my god, this is so great, there might be Doctor Doom, but it's like Kevin Feige version of Doctor Doom,
Yeah.
because the villains are so great.
But
The
I
rogues
think
gallery of villains.
what could happen, maybe not a complete merge, but I think that maybe kind of like Sony, where Fox will let them use certain characters for a percentage.
Right.
That could, because the thing is, Fantastic Four under Fox is done. They can't make another movie.
Yeah.
Like, people, they spoke with the last film.
Yeah. Here's what it needs to be.
It was fucking awesome.
I have an idea of how to fix it. Just call it Marvel's Fantastic Four, and it'll be
Or introduce them in another franchise, like Introduce them in the Spider-Man movie.
Right.
as
You don't
secondary
even need to do.
characters.
You don't even need to do an origin because the
not
origin of the
at all.
Fantastic Four is one of the lamest origins. We went into outer space, cosmic
And we've
rays.
seen
we
it
have
twice.
powers.
We
We've
don't
seen
need
it.
to
Yeah,
see it
exactly.
again.
Same. It's like Green Lantern's
Technically
origin.
3
We've
times.
seen it 3 times if you count the Corman, but we're not going to get
Yeah.
into that.
And Green Lantern's origin, I think, is also kind of a lame origin. I put on a ring. Now I have powers.
I
Like
will fight you, Chris.
I know. I know there's more to it, but like
Yeah, we're not going to get into that.
let's not get into.
My thoughts as far as what I think is going to happen, which I haven't put too much thought into, is that I get the feeling there is going to be some kind of Doctor Strange shenanigans.
Yes, Doctor Strange. Okay, yes,
He
Oh,
did.
yeah.
I think he did something
he did something.
because
Okay, good. I agree with you.
because he said this was the only way, and because of that one line, I think he did something. He pulled something.
Yeah, he also said this is the end game. Basically, it's his Hail Mary. Like it's last ditch effort to, save the cosmos.
Yeah, having looked at 14 million, whatever it was, like, possible outcomes and only one scenario where they win. I mean, I gotta say, when first watching the movie, I was so nervous because I had no idea what characters were gonna die and how they were gonna die.
Yeah, it was interesting the way that they selected.
Well, and
Yeah.
also I think as you're watching it, you're really not sure Thanos is going to win.
Yeah.
Like you're like, yeah, no, they'll beat him, but maybe not. Maybe they won't beat him, and
Yeah.
they didn't beat him.
And I think
I
the
was
audience
hearing-
at the
yeah.
end kind of thought, when the axe goes like in, Thanos's chest, and he says, you should have aimed for the head. Go for the head or the hand. Chop
Yeah.
off his hand, like something. Like
By the way, we got to talk about how cool that Stormbreaker was in this.
Right, yeah.
For all of you who don't know and aren't geeky like us,
Please.
Stormbreaker technically in the comic, it's not Thor's weapon. It belongs to another character named Beta Ray Bill,
Yeah, it was
who's
gifted to
who's
Beta Ray
basically the guy or the alien who takes Thor's place later on in the comics. So that's his axe.
he looks
So-
like Camel Joe.
pretty much. So it was very cool.
one.
It was very cool seeing the Stormbreaker axe in this film for the comic nerds.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird though that this thing is 2.5 hours and doesn't feel like that
At all.
There's no.
Not
I mean,
at all.
I complain that there's no time to go to the bathroom in the film. There really isn't. Like, you got to pick your breaks.
Yeah.
If you're gonna.
Well, I
take
joked
one.
about, just, make sure if you guys, watch this film for the first time, buy a very large bucket of popcorn so you have something to piss in.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to get up at any point without missing something crucial.
Yeah.
But there's look. I don't think there's any doubt that the characters that disappeared in that ashen, horrible, like they're all coming back.
I don't think they're gone forever.
But they're not definitely not gone forever, but I feel like there's going to be some other resets, like Gamora's death. I think in particular, like what is going to happen with that, because they're making Guardians 3.
But she might not be in it.
Yeah,
That's true, because they introduced the original Guardians of the Galaxy in part 2.
Yes,
with
I
Sylvester
would
Stallone.
love for them. I would love for Marvel to just completely swerve everybody and say we're not going to bring back any of the characters. Shuri is the next Black Panther. Miles Morales is the next Spider-Man. The original Guardians of the Galaxy, the Ravagers, are now
Right.
the stars. Like it's Sylvester Stallone in a Marvel movie. Like
That would be
headlining.
really interesting.
It would be so bold and so unpredictable.
They won't do it,
I
but
know.
it's
It's way too bold and unpredictable.
But also, this is like, in a way, it's trying to teach kids that, because I say kids because I think that anyone under 10 in this, everyone I know who's seen this with a young child under 10, all those kids cry. They all cry watching this movie.
Well, they
because
don't get it. They don't understand.
they
Yeah.
don't understand not winning, right? Like, and I think it's important to realize, like, the good guys don't always win. This is life.
Trump is
right?
our president, so obviously.
I was gonna say, like someone do this who's listening to the podcast. Do an image of Trump as Thanos, and then just like,
Nah, because Thanos was smart.
well, that's true. Forget it. Make it. But I've seen like people take that sort of purple, Thanos skin look. Like, I don't know, but like, yeah, no, really, like the good guys don't always win, and I feel like that has to happen sometimes. That's why I think the Guardians of the Galaxy endings are the best endings of the Marvel movies, because they're not, and even with like the good endings, like Peter Parker still is like, this goofy kid who's not taken seriously. Like the endings are not like everything's all. Civil War kind of ended weird with like a bunch of them in jail and like the friendship of, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers kind of,
And also, I kind of want to
Fractured.
Fractured,
want to point out too. I kind of feel like because there's always been that thing about Marvel not having good villains. I think ever since Civil War, Marvel has stepped up their villain game. Because I thought Zemo was a good villain.
Yeah.
I thought obviously Killmonger was amazing. I thought Vulture was one of my favorites.
Yes.
I really dug
the
Ego.
Vulture
Yeah, you're
was
right.
fucking amazing
Yeah.
in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So I think Marvel they're stepping up their villain game.
Yeah, I really dug Ego. I thought he was.
Oh,
great.
Ego,
Oh,
love
right,
Ego.
Ego.
Yeah, the Living Planet. Come
Yeah.
on.
I have another prediction.
Okay,
And
okay.
this is kind of a sad prediction.
Let's hear the sad prediction.
I think that this movie is very much Marvel's The Empire Strikes Back, and I think that the next one is very much going to be The Return of the Jedi.
In what sense?
In what sense? There's just no
What?
way to conclude the story in a satisfying way that just it's going to be there's going to be
You might be
cop-outs,
right.
there's going to be compromises. I don't
The problem is though, how do you
exactly
beat-
how do you
how
top
do you top what you just saw?
Infinity War?
I think it's going to be the opposite, that all the characters that died will come back and all the characters that didn't die may suffer deaths in order to reset the world.
And you know what?
That's
then
and by
that's kinda
deaths.
predictable.
And you know what
by-
though? If
That's
they
kinda
no, but
predictable.
but if they do that, that's fair, and I'll
fair.
accept that.
Yeah.
like somebody has to die, like
No,
permanently.
Yeah. Look, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. get paid a lot for these movies. Robert Downey Jr. in particular
Very much
gets
so.
paid more than anyone because he took, they didn't want him to be in the first Iron Man. That was something where Jon Favreau had to fight for him to do it. Like,
yeah, he was a entertainment industry pariah back then.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
over
he
just
was
He really
actually.
was.
dumb
Yeah.
stuff he did. Although I have to say, Less Than Zero is one of my favorite movies.
Love
when he
that
did
film.
that. I mean, that movie is it's so good.
No, but
and
he's
it
right
holds
though.
up
Like
to today.
Hollywood wrote him off. Like
Yeah.
He's
Robert
nominated
was
for an
done.
Oscar for Chaplin. Like the guy, people forget he was nominated for an Oscar for that movie.
Well, his
And-
talent was never in question. It's just that his shenanigans just really
But
screwed him.
I feel like he was his shenanigans. Here's the thing about his shenanigans, Robert Downey Jr. If I could defend him for a moment, like they didn't hurt anyone but himself.
No, we know that. I mean, as
Yeah.
adults,
Yeah.
people with drug problems
And his family.
They hurt.
Right,
They
his
usually
family,
hurt
true.
themselves and the family. But he wasn't out there purposely trying to hurt people.
Wasn't trying to hurt, and you believe that he has remorse. For
And it's
those
not.
days.
It's not that Hollywood turned their back on him. It's just that the media beat him down so much. Hollywood's like, we can't bank on this guy because the media beat him down.
Well, it's
so much.
interesting. I was doing the junket for Waking Life when I was working for G4, and it just been announced that he got the job, and he's in that movie. He's in Waking Life in a bit part, and I interviewed him, and I congratulated him, and he was just like, he basically said, "I'm just so excited. I'm going to be in a movie my kids can see." Like, because, he'd been doing kind of stuff that it might not be for kids.
Yeah, Less Than Zero is not for kids.
Right, for sure. Although that film, watch it now, I mean, it really holds up. I mean, it's like if you've ever dealt with any friend who's had a drug problem.
Oh no, it's one of my favorites.
That movie
it's amazing.
is pretty incredible. So, and a great soundtrack, because I remember smuggling into the theater a cassette recorder to record the soundtrack when it originally came out. Okay, final thoughts on Avengers Infinity War, and we've had some interesting predictions. We think that, I mean, I think the universe is going to be set right, but we have two films, which now it's been officially announced that Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place before Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there'll be what the end credit scene will be. We're not going to see a Marvel movie until March.
It was
right?
Captain Marvel, right?
Captain Marvel in March. And Captain Marvel, I don't know. Of course, it's the first female-led Marvel film.
Finally.
Finally, Marvel finally catching up to DC. And then, but like
In one regard.
yeah, well, look, I love the DC characters. I would like to see them in
Same
movies.
here.
Right. So, but Captain Marvel apparently does deal with issues. It deals with, I think we're going to see Sam Jackson, why he has a pager, and also who had a color pager. I thought that was they were stretching it a little bit, right? Did they make color pagers?
Well, you got to figure S.H.I.E.L.D., right? They have the technology to do whatever they want.
they had
so-
advanced pagers back
Exactly.
then. So, and they had
Who says
pagers,
it's Earth-based?
they had space pagers, but okay, so
And
could be
Coulson,
Kree
Agent
technology.
Coulson's coming
Agent
back.
Coulson, yeah. So you're going to see the younger versions of Sam Jackson. You're going to see Sam
Ronan the
Jackson
Accuser.
with two eyes. What's that?
Ronan the Accuser is going to be in it too.
There's going to be, it's going to be really interesting to see, like, the world as it was, and maybe find the motivation for why. I kind of feel what's going to happen is that's going to lead into, you see Sam Jackson showing up at the end of Iron Man, right? Like this is like the Avengers Initiative. Well, the Avengers Initiative clearly was born from the events that happened with Captain Marvel. And why does Captain Marvel not even on Earth and had disappeared?
Maybe she's in the Soul Gem.
Who knows?
Well, apparently, from what I've gathered, she's lost in space. So, supposedly,
In a Soul Gem?
Well,
maybe.
Well, we'll find out. So, but it's interesting because then there's that, and then 2 months later, boom, you've got
Whatever-
the conclusion,
whatever they're gonna call it.
whatever the conclusion is. So, final thoughts from you guys.
Final thoughts for me is that I thought there'd be something I could nitpick about it, and I can't. I love this film all the way through. It didn't disappoint at all, and yeah, I could say that this could have been better. This could have been better, but for me, I felt like Marvel really they basically know what no one else has done. And you can't deny that by watching this. You can't deny the scope and of this film and the ambition.
I feel like I get the feeling they're saving the best for last, because it really was a weird thing where the film was really disjointed in not a way that was bad. You usually like have the characters that are all together, and then you've got sort of separate battles happening. And there were separate battles happening within certain battles that you were cutting back and forth. We were cutting back and forth between kind of three major things going on. Thanos' story. You get Thanos' story, Thor's story, Wakanda, and then Iron Man's story, right? Like those things all cutting between each other was just kind of crazy, and they never meet up, because normally what would happen with those, they'd all kind of they meet up a little bit at the end, but it's not 100%. So because Tony Stark and Nebula are on this planet.
Yeah, they're marooned.
They're marooned on a planet, which I'm gonna guess they'll find a ship that works. They'll figure it out. We'll have Nebula's ship, which is a 2-seater, hopefully.
Right.
Tiny, but a 2-seater.
Also, one quick complaint though.
Yes.
If I were going to have a complaint about this film, there should have been more Hulk.
You took my complaint.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
it just flashed to me like, damn it, there wasn't enough Hulk in this film.
But also, don't you think, like I say, they're saving the best for last? There's going to be, because I feel like the movie was amazing start to finish for me, but there was one moment missing. And it was that moment in Civil War when you see all those characters on screen together at once. And it's this, oh my God, it's a splash page from a comic book. And I feel like there are a couple moments that maybe got splash page adjacent, but not the heights of Civil War, where it's all these characters at one time together. I feel like they're saving that for the next one.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, my major gripe is what they did with the Hulk. I hated the whole performance issues type thing.
Right. Because that's like, what was that? That was the subject of like Spider-Man 2, right?
I would have been okay.
Done it before.
I would have been okay with it if it was like here and there, but he should have showed up at least for the final battle. Yeah. It's like, okay, I get it. He's afraid. Okay, he's not afraid anymore. He's ready to fight, and that never happened.
It would have
been
been
completely
funny.
Goes against the Hulk's character. Like the Hulk lives to fight. And I think it's just kind of a cop-out bullshit.
It would have been funny if he just sort of like turned to the Hulk in the Hulkbuster thing, but also the clothes, he was naked. The only thing keeping him not naked was just the remaining parts of the Hulkbuster.
Yes,
that would have
like
been
a
hilarious.
metal
Yeah.
loin, and
Yes.
just like, like you could see the top of his butt crack maybe from the metal loin.
That
I
would have
don't
been
know,
just
like,
fine.
It would have been,
Yeah.
it would just, and he's like got the parts of the Hulkbuster, but he's so involved in what he's doing. He's like, the parts are still on him. So I don't know.
My other gripes with it, and this is very nitpicky, so bear with me, but as much as I loved Thor, I think that there were problems with the character. He just saw his entire people get massacred. He just saw his brother die, and he's still like quipping with Guardians
No,
of the
but I
Galaxy.
thought that
Like,
was funny. Like,
okay.
because like when Rocket has that conversation with him, it's like, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I'm like,
was
like
the
he was."
only time, like,
but that
they
was
touched on
great.
it.
It showed.
That actually was a very good scene.
that was a
I
great
agree.
Scene.
But he needed to be more determined. Like, he didn't need to. There were so many jokes already. I didn't need Thor to like hit on Gamora.
Well,
Like,
just so you know, if the Russo brothers are listening, take out more jokes, because Anthony doesn't want too many jokes.
yeah, So
But no, I do. I understand where you're coming from, and I felt like he was very much more serious at the end, towards the end of the film.
yeah, exactly. It's this weird.
Yeah. Yeah. What? What's up? Yeah. What's up? Yes. What? Yeah. All right. I can get. Okay. Write this down.
This is where you play the intermission music.
Yeah.
We will return. I completely agree with you though about that part.
Yeah, I just wish that he was more focused and more kind of driven. And it does come out in the end where he does that "Bring me Thanos" thing, but just the comedy and some of the dialogue was kind of just meh.
Which has always been kind of the complaints of people about Marvel films is the joking around too much and blah blah blah.
I
I
feel
feel
like
like the one character that needed to be like kind of, I'm on a mission and not necessarily devoid of personality or humor, but just more focused. It should have been Thor.
all right. Well,
But
you know
saying
what?
that him and Doctor Strange are my favorite characters.
Well,
in the movie.
but okay. In spite of everything you guys have said, I think this is the kind of thing you hear from if you're a comic nerd. You're going to be. I was annoyed by the Vision thing and the Soul Stone. You were annoyed.
They're
by,
nitpicking.
Yeah, these are nitpicking, but also like
As a whole, the movie is phenomenal.
But also, we could just be like everyone else who just accepts it and whatever. We're not like that.
They're
Well,
called
look,
Infinity Gems.
Gems,
It doesn't.
yes.
It doesn't mean we don't love it. We just have our
Right.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for doing having this conversation with me. Thank you, Dante. Where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter at Bootsy Star Child, at Bootsy Star Child. You can also find me on Instagram the same way. And if you want to find me on Facebook, I go by my name, Dante James.
All right. Cool. And Anthony, you're at This Game Cheats.
That's correct.
Cool. And I'm that Chris Gore and Film Threat on everything. And thank you guys. Make mine Marvel. Let's get out of here.